DCE 01 General Principles of Writing Block 2 Unit 1st The Genesis of Themes Preparation for Writing 1.0 Aims and Objectives. This unit seeks to explain the genesis of creative impulse in a writer. By the end of this unit, you should have learned to distinguish the feature of a genuine creative impulse in order to give it a concrete form. It is a distinguishable form from a superficial emotion by its recurrent and empathic nature. It needs distancing from the events in terms of time and impersonality. It is concretized through an intermix of sharpened experience, observation, and imagination. It may arise out of factual events or from submerged memories of the subconscious. It is wedded to motivation and not vice versa. It can be cultivated and developed into a short story or a poem. 1.1 Introduction. In block first of the first course on general principles of writing, we dealt with the fundamental norms of writing like the need for lucidity and directness, authenticity and credibility, as well as the nature and function of the authorial voice. This opening unit of block 2 on structure of material is concerned with the genesis of themes and preparatory stages of writing. The choice of themes for a possible short story or a poem rarely deliberate. It is mostly spontaneous. That is, themes occur to you as you go about your daily work. And you begin to feel that it will be a good idea to put pen to paper and write on the theme that has come your way. But does each impulse get transformed into a short story or poem? No. Quite often the impulse withers away, in spite of the brilliant promise it offered you at one point of time. And in quite a few cases, while you do start writing out of the earliest opportunity and with the enthusiasm unbounded, you are compelled to leave it off midway. It's all the same whether you tear it up in the disgust or treasure the aborted mess, hoping to do something about it at some future date. Then again, there would be that odd one you complete somehow or in a determined sweep and add to your tally. But you are never satisfied with the way it has turned out, and they suffer the feeling that the theme that occurred to you was not particularly bright and you should have better left it alone. These are the common occupational hazards that has a right that a writer has to put up with. 1.2 Origins of creative impulse. So much for the themes that may occur to you, their origins may elude you, rooted as they may be in the memories submerged in your subconscious. You should honor these impulses and test them for possible viability. Now use the method suggested later on in this unit before you start writing. It would indeed be tragic in terms of time management if so many themes should be born only to perish. Therefore, we should preserve in using words and phrases which approximate the original. 1.3 Genuineness of the creative impulse. You should make sure that the impulse is genuine. Assuming that the impulse has troubled you on the emotional plane, as it often does, the question you should ask of yourself is, charming and overwhelming as it may have been at the given moment, was it not rather transient and hence a superficial emotion? Just as an auntie of the neighborhood burst into tears at the sight of puppy in distress or a bride leaving her mother's home, could it have happened that you were taken in by the setting of the atmosphere? In a certain romantic atmosphere of moon and far away music and what have you, you found the dialogue of an old couple particularly cute, and you thought you could write a poem on the theme of love in the afternoon. Or while passing through a slum, you are moved by the sight of young, good-looking mother being harassed by a brood of unkempt and pot-bellied children, and you thought you could write a story on the theme of roses in the dust, etc. It may well be that you can write a powerful piece on either, but let the confidence grow in you over a period of time after you have satisfied yourself that such emotive reactions have been fairly recurrent with you in similar situations, and you can identify reasonably well with the old couple or the young mother in the hard core of their lives. Distancing is necessary for creative effort. Conversely, do not trust the impulse for immediate action. If it is much too intense, being acutely personal, here one remembers the famous phrase of Wordsworth: emotional recollected in tranquility as the base of poetry. Let the storm settle into a calm surface. It is only then that you can write it on effectively. Truman Capote, a contemporary fiction writer of repute, writes in a similar vein. I have to exhaust the emotion before I feel clinical enough to analyze and project it. My own theory is that writer should have dried his tears long before setting out to evoke similar reaction in a reader. What he means to say is that in so far as the emotional stimulus is concerned, a certain distancing is necessary for creative effort. To cite an example, you have lost a child. You are naturally overwhelmed with grief, and being a writer, you wish to release yourself in verse or prose. You may surely do so for therapeutic reasons, just as you could release yourself in a flood of tears. But the best result in terms of literary merit can be achieved only when you look upon the event from a distance, thanks to the passage of time among the others, and can call upon other parents to share those intenser moments with you. Your literary piece would then be both authentic in terms of emotional experience and objective in terms of expressed thought, this ideal combination that any writer could devotedly wish for. 1.4 The creative impulse is distinct from political and social motivation. Do not misjudge the stirrings of an abiding motivation for creative impulse. Suppose you are strongly motivated by temperament and conviction to expose the evils of social justice. Undoubtedly such motivation would govern your outlook on the human condition, and you would smell injustice in situation which to some others may be no more than curiosity in terms of interpersonal conflict. There is nothing inherently wrong in such coloration that is bound to creep into the works of a motivated writer. The motivation covered could be well cultural, philosophical, or any other. But what is important is that the genesis should indeed be a creative impulse to start with, which could later be wedded to the motivation and not vice versa. As a writer, you should consider the impulse as creative only when you react to a situation primarily because it is interesting from the human angle, and only additionally because of its social implications. The late Bhagpati Panigrahi, a noted writer who was also one of the founders of the Communist Party in Odisha, wrote a story named Shikhar, which has acquired considerable fame and has also been turned into a competent movie entitled Mrigya by Mrinal Sen. Here, the theme obviously is of social injustice, the oppression of poor tribals by the moneyed henchmen of an alien administration. But one imagines that Bhagpati Panigrahi must have been impelled to write the story when he came across, through his observation come imagination, a character such as Gunia, simple tribal who could never understand till his death by hanging the strange logic that he did not deserve an award more than any average hunter for having chopped off the head of a well known oppressor and presented it to a local commissioner. It is the bizarre simplicity of truth embodied in the personality of the character that lends particular charm to the story, and not the well known fact of social injustice in the colonial times. And so, look for the seeds of an illuminating circumstance in human terms, absurd, funny, or tragic as the case may be, in the impulse you have had to write a certain story or a poem. You could consider later whether it would be also serve your cherished motivation. A story with motivation written into it should indeed be richer, for it gives an extra dimension to the story. But let it not appear that the characters have been directed to prove the truth of motivation, for that may be self defeating. On the other hand, give them the importance of being human and the freedom that goes with it. Freedom to love, weep, howl, fight, and act in all sort of funny and foolish ways. In situations that may be called socially evil, and you will not see how your motivation shines through the intensely human narrative. For example, let us compare two stories that you may gain access to without much difficulty. One is Anton Chekhov's In Exile, the story of young Tartar and the old Simeon nicknamed Wiseacre, thrown together in exile in Siberia as ferrymen along with some others. The young man clings pitifully to the illusion that life can yet be lived, and so he feels miserable thinking of his young wife and family left at home, whereas the old man who has seen it all make himself believe that he is happy and repeats God grants everyone such a life. The cruel irony of human situation in extremis caused by socio-political system comes through in an interaction between these two characters, both foolishly human and vulnerable, with others inciting them as it were from the sidelines. See how understand yet devastating the concluding lines are. All of them lay down. The wind blew the door open. Snow drifted into the hunt. No one could bring himself to get up and shut the door. It was cold, but they put up with it. And am I happy? Muttered Simeon as he fell asleep. God grant everyone such a life. You surely are the devil's own. You surely are the devil's own. Even the devil needn't bother to take you. Sounds like the barking of a dog came from outside. Why is that? Who is there? It's the Tartar crying. Oh, he's an odd one. He'll get used to it, said Simeon, and soon fell asleep. Soon the others slept too, and the door was left open. The desperateness of situation and is underscored by the fact that the door is left open after all by both parties in spite of their brave efforts to love life in the quaint and opposite ways. Now compare this story with another, Manik Bandyopadhyay's Primeval, translated from Bengali original Pragatihasik, included in Modern Indian Short Stories, Volume 4th, published by ICCR. Here the motivation is all too evident, for author decides that the central character should be nothing short of monster who is totally devoid of love, sympathy, kindness and what have you, and who commits all sort of heinous crimes to feed his flesh. The author makes no bones about it, for he wants his character to reflect the unmitigated evil of the social situation, and he makes his position clear in the concluding lines after he describes how the beggar Bhiku robbed the lame fellow beggar of his pitiful savings and carried off his woman Panchi, also a beggar, to satisfy his lust, thus beginning a journey towards an unknown world with the stars above watching their steps. The lines go like this: the moon in the sky has a past, the earth below has a history, but the darkness that saw the birth of Bhiku and Panchi in the mother's womb was no likely to see the origins of new life inside Panchi's body, had no past, no history. It is primeval. 1.5 Preparation for writing. Finally, do your homework. After you have made sure that your impulse is genuine, it is not overwhelmingly charged with a personal emotion and not created by social or other motivation, the task before you is to convert the impulse into the hardcore genesis of a theme. In essence, that you have to do is concretize the impulse you have had into flesh and blood and living tissue so that it may acquire a body. This is the last stage before you put pen to paper, and it constitutes what may be termed as preparation for writing. What may be termed as preparation for writing. 1.5.1 Marshalling of relevant facts concerning locale, atmosphere, and characters. If you have a story in mind, you should take particular care to marshal the facts, authentic and recognizable details of the locale, the atmosphere, the historic or social background, if that be relevant, or also of the characters that you have decided to summon for your purpose. Focus on the concrete facts of perception which would make the reader alive to the reality of the story, even though you would be mixing them up cleverly with loads of imaginative fiction. Take for example R.K. Narayan's Malgudi. There is indeed no such town in India or elsewhere, but we seem to find our own small town. For those of us who are familiar with one in present living or nostalgic memory, talking to us in numerous ripples of events peopled as it is not merely by recognizable women and children, but by temples, hospitals, markets, goats, donkeys, and what have you. The writer has brought them close to us, no less by the care he has taken to study and organize the authentic factual details for his story than by the other charms of his storytelling genius. The importance of fact finding is less, but only relative so in a poem. Subjectivity has no doubt been traditionally a distinctive feature in poetry. Nevertheless, thanks to the value placed on realism in modern literary thought, poems are considered to be richer and hence more acceptable. If they are seen to be rich in response to concrete scenes and situations of life in our times, as a reader would recognize them, for example, the tourist and the beggar woman following him gazing together at a Mithuna sculpture in the temple walls of Konark, the body of child floating down the river in the aftermath of a bloody riot, the poor fish in the marketplace staring in awe and wonder as it were at the amplitude of the rich housewives closing in on him for the authentic details of Konark's sculpture. A river bank was indeed witness to a bloody riot in a recent memory, or the sights and sounds of typical fish market. And then what about the longer poems rooted in history of mythology? Can you trust your creative impulse to yield a worthwhile poem unless you arm yourself sufficiently with factual details of the locale, atmosphere, and characters relevant or supposedly relevant in a mythological piece to situation you have in mind? 1.5.2 Combining experience, observation, and imagination. The emphasis, as above, on homework is derived from the compulsion, in literary parlance, of the circumstance that while a creative impulse is derived from A. Experience, B. Observation, and C. Imagination, the three ingredients are hardly ever matched in ideal proportional in the mental equipage of a writer. Hence, the need to deepen the experience, sharpen the observation, and avoid overdoing the imagination by taking upon oneself, for the time being, the role of researcher and thus provide the genesis of a theme that will hold for a story or a poem. 1.6 Additional criteria for selection of themes. While the guidelines indicated above could simply apply to genesis of creative effort in general, it will be advisable to apply some separate and additional criteria in the case of short stories and poems. 1.6.1 Themes for short stories. A theme may pass the test referred to the above, and you have met the necessary preparation, but it is still possible that it does not lend itself to the format of a short story, though it could be excellent material for a piece of journalistic feature writing. So before starting to work on theme, you should satisfy yourself that it is susceptible of being converted into a story. That is, a tale that begins with a promise can normally sustain a conflict or complication on its way and ends with a certain revelation. And B, you should be fairly confident that it will say or appear to say something new about the human condition, howsoever limited the framework of your experience or observation may be. Thus, for example, the antics of Bandarwala, Monkey Man, sporting a flowing white beard and indulging in toothless chatter, who seeks to entertain the children of the neighborhood with the performance of his monkey, such as much less interesting than his own, may have prompted you to write something on the funny yet sad situation. Apparently, it would make for a delightful moving feature article, but could it also be brought within the format of a short story? Yes, if you could, through your further observation and imagination, weave the outline of a tale around the fascinating character. Possibly you could connect the mirth of this toothless grin to the ebullience of his youth and his pathetic dedication to the trade, hardly popular in a city, of playing the monkey, to a fierce sense of independence that seeks to defy the fates which have been chasing the sunlights out of his life one by one. So, what seems pitiful and ridiculous too could well be an essay in bravery, or could it be his way of taking it out on his family, a cranky old man pitted against his practical third generation? Whatever it is, you have to reconnect it with a tale, the brief story of his life or one outside it, and so reveal the essence of his character at the end. See if your theme can yield such a tale, and having assured yourself that you can make it on with your story, and best of luck. This example refers to a so called character story, but there are many other ways of telling a story derived from a twin prerequisites referred to the above, and there are several others cognate considerations that go into writing of story. These are matters that would be dealt in detail when the speciality of a short story as a distinct literary form is covered. Themes of themes for poetry. 1.6.2. While the writer's statement in a short story comes through by traversing a certain distance, the statement in a poem has to grip the reader through reader's thought and imagination in an instant. This is being so, it is of utmost importance before writing a poem on well-chosen theme that you should be committed totally, right at the beginning, to what you are going to say and how. That is, to the basic thought, content, and the tone, fearful, angry, excited, reflective, whatever, that you wish to adopt. The words will come later. You may have to chop and hew them any number of times, but your sights must be pretty clear at the outset on what and how of your poem to be, which would determine the overall nature of impact you wish to create in the mind of the reader. Let us take for the example the theme of being lost in the woods on an evening when the darkness is setting in, a tradition yet fascinating theme which has a fable like charm about it that has enticed poets through the ages. From the immortal Dante in his Divine Comedy, or to the modern poet of today, anxious to seize upon image, would be rich in possibilities in terms of various kinds of response that it tends to evoke. There is a fatal charm about such themes, and they can tie you up in knots if you are not careful enough to start with. In a poem, the thought content and the tone often tend to coalesce. The verbal, seeking to express a thought, could merge into a non verbal, that is, the pervasive mystical experience of the poem, which can only be expressed symbolically in its totality. It may be, as most modern poets, a complex phenomena in awareness that you wish to share with the reader. Even so, it is necessary for a power poetic craft that you should commit yourself to the quintessence of your statement in the mold of an overall emotion before you begin. Losing yourself in the woods while the daylight is fading slowly but inevitably would give the rise to the variety of emotions depending on your mood, life situation, worldview, or whatever fear as a child. A sense of adventure reaching out of the mystery, expectancy, hoping to find somebody from this deep and dark of your dreams. Surrender a keen to divine consciousness, etc. It is not unlikely that you have been taken by the multifaceted charm of that situation, and your reactions are chaotic, but you should weld them into dominant outlook of the mind, one of the many indicated above, and then bind yourself to it. It is only then that you can formulate the what and how of your statements in fairly clear terms, which will yield the appropriate images and metaphors, and then move to the opening lines. This is not to say that you have to do without the truths of a complex reaction, but let the complexity be derived from or opposed if need be in point counterpoint syndrome if you can make it to the dominant outlook as you move along. Do not mistake your chaotic or crisscrossed reaction for complexity and allow the words to find their own bearings that might land you with confused images and mixed metaphors. A failing which cannot be saved always by the plea of subjectivity or the wanted obscurity of the modern consciousness.